Hey everybody, Joe Brady back with you again, and we are here in Photoshop to go over just one tool. During a recent photo workshop, one of our clients had mentioned that she would love to see some videos that really just take a tool, a certain tool, and use it on a couple of different images rather than a complete in-depth image edit. So we're going to do that. In fact, this is one of the images from that trip. This is in Olympic National Park. Let me just, let's make this a little bit bigger. And not quite that big, actually. Need some room to move her around. This is actually from the Hoh Rainforest in Olympic National Park. And I'm actually going to cheat on this one a little bit because I'm going to use two tools. But really, first of all, just the overall composition of the image. This is a very subtle kind of piece. It's more decorative. Almost looks like the Monet lily pad paintings. But I don't want to give up anything yet. The foreground is a little bit too strong. This tree is obviously a focal point with the moss on it. And this is really beautiful down here. And normally I would have cropped this, but I don't want to give up this blue reflection. I really like it, but I want a little bit less of it. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to create a copy of the background, which again, you can drag to the little square, or you might as well just learn this. It's Command or Control J. Makes a copy of that. And let me reset my colors to black and white. And I'm going to use the marquee tool to select basically kind of the bottom half of the image. So I'm just going to select that entire bottom half. And the tool we are after today is Content Aware Scale. And what that allows us to do is to change sort of the perspective of an image, say for example, if we were to get down lower. So let's go up to Edit, Content Aware Scale. Now, in order to make it work on a landscape shot like this, you have to hold down the Shift key. If not, then the whole thing shrinks, which isn't particularly helpful. Hold down the Shift key and it's just in one direction. And what that allows us to do is to compress that foreground so that the aspect ratio and the power and physical size of the elements in the photograph are all still there, but we don't have to give up any of that beautiful background. So there we go. That's what we ended up with. And you can see, I'll just turn this on and off. There's our original composition, and here is our new one. Now, while we're here, I got to do one thing. All right, I apologize. I did need to go a little deeper for this one. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to change it from normal to overlay. And I'm going to paint with light using a brush here. So I'm going to get a brush, which is just the B key. I've got black in the foreground, so that's the one it's going to use. Let's go ahead and, let's make the brush about this big. So where do I want the dark? Well, the parts where I don't necessarily want you to go. This area over here is maybe a little bit too bright. So I'm going to make the opacity 20%. I can do that just by hitting 2 on my keyboard. And I'm going to paint in here, and you can see those areas getting darker. I don't want them to go too dark, but just enough so that they're not drawing the eye. Same thing over in this corner here, and maybe way back in the distance there. Now I'm going to hit the X key, which will put white in the foreground. I'm going to work at 10%, so I'm just going to hit 1 on the keyboard, and I'm going to lighten up. And this is additive. If I keep hitting over top of this, it will add to it. So these areas that are in the foreground that are maybe a little bit too dark, but that support this fallen branch, I'm going to go ahead and lighten up a little bit. And even down in here. And it might not look like I've done much, but let's turn this layer on and off that we just made and take a look. And look at the difference about where you look just by using that. Yes, I know that was 2 tools. Sorry, Nancy, you were the one that asked for this, but this image needed it. We're going to do one more, however, though. So I've got my image exactly the way I want it. Let's go ahead and I'm going to Command click on our layer that's been compressed. That will exactly give us what's there. I could have also just brought up the crop tool, but I'm going to do that and then go to Image Crop. And then we'll deselect that. So there's our final edit, and let's compare it to where we started from. That's the image that we started with. In fact, let's go full screen on this, and we'll zoom in a bit so you can see the whole thing. That's the original file, and it's fine, but That's better. It's much tighter. We've got all the foreground, but it is not physically taller than our main feature here, this tree, fallen tree with the moss. So that's our first use of content-aware scale. Now, coming up and down on these is fairly common, but we're going to change it up a little bit. So here's another image that also I'm going to use content-aware scale, but for a different reason and in a different way. This is at a place called First Beach in La Push, Washington. This is part of Olympic National Park. And as I took a picture of these three sea stacks just past sunset, what I felt was, gee, they're kind of too far apart. There's this big gap right in the middle of the frame, and I think I want to bring this one maybe a little closer to the other two. So again, I'm going to Command J to make a copy of it. And in this case, I'm going to get our marquee tool again. I'm going to select, say over to about there, and I'm going to once again go to Content Aware Scale. Now in this case, we're going to compress it horizontally. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to compress this area. It's going to make that little bit of land not quite as long. However, technically, I could have accomplished this just by walking to the right when I took the shot. That would have put these things closer together. So let's hit Enter on that. And let's hide the background so we can see what it is that we've done. Well, now I can either take left or right and just move it. So we'll just take the right part of the image. I'm going to hold down the Command key and the Shift key, which will allow me to cut and move. And the Shift key keeps it nice and straight. I should have given myself a line to snap to, but let's just go ahead and look in, and we will go up to View, Hide Extras, and actually I was pretty good. I was lucky at that. I could just use the V key, and I could move this back and forth. If I hold down the V key and the Shift key, and if I'm zoomed in, I can just go, and I can even use the arrow keys until they snap together. And there we go. So let's back off on that. I'll just hit the crop tool this time. And we'll just crop in from the right and hit Enter. By bringing them closer, that tightens up the composition, and now they seem more connected than in this previous one, where there's just a little bit too much room in the middle of the shot. In fact, let's go ahead and we'll go look at this full frame. And there's our edit with the C stacks closer together. Works a lot better. I think I'll probably go ahead and add a little saturation to this back in Lightroom. But again, just wanted to show you real quickly two ways to use the Content Aware Scale tool in Photoshop to be able to tighten up the composition and the balance in your image. Hope you found that helpful. Do me a favor and please subscribe, because I put new videos up all the time. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you online again soon. Bye-bye.